The Great Hall of the Galactic Council hummed with the quiet conversations of 200 species. Light from 3 suns poured through the crystal dome above, casting rainbows across the polished stone floor. At the center of the chamber stood Ambassador Gray, his pale blue skin glistening with nervous sweat. Gray's 4-fingered hands trembled as he gripped the speaking podium. The chamber fell silent. This was not the confident diplomat who had represented the Lumari people for 15 cycles. This was a broken man. "Honored representatives," Gray began, his voice cracking, "I come before you today not with proposals or treaties, but with a plea for the very survival of my people." The main display behind him activated, showing images of a beautiful green and blue world, Lumari Prime. Then the images changed. Cities in flames, orbital platforms shattered, refugee ships crowded with frightened civilians. For 3 months, the Vex Armada has blockaded our homeworld. They demand our unconditional surrender. They demand our resources, our territories, and... Gray paused, struggling to maintain composure. And they demand half our population for what they call labor redistribution. Murmurs spread through the chamber. The Vex had been expanding their territory for years, but this level of aggression was unprecedented. "We have tried diplomatic channels," Gray continued. "We have offered fair trade agreements. We have even offered limited territorial concessions. But the Vex commander merely laughed and gave us 30 more days to surrender." The council chairperson, a tall insectoid named Director Click, tapped her ceremonial staff against the floor. "Ambassador Gray, the council sympathizes with your situation. However, our non-intervention protocols are clear. The Vex Confederation is a recognized galactic power. Without evidence of specific treaty violations, we cannot authorize military action." Gray's shoulders slumped. "We expected this answer, but I had to try. In 26 days, my civilization will either be enslaved or destroyed." From the back of the chamber, a voice called out, "I have a question." Heads turned. Standing near the entrance was a stocky figure in a simple gray uniform. Unlike the elegant robes of most representatives, this uniform was functional, almost military in design. The being who wore it had pinkish-brown skin and a covering of short brown hair on top of its head. Director Click seemed annoyed by the interruption. "The human observer has not been recognized by the chair." The human stepped forward anyway. "My name is Jack Wilson, representing Earth. Ambassador Gray, you said you've tried diplomatic channels. Have you requested direct assistance from individual worlds rather than council action?" Gray blinked his large eyes in confusion. "The council is the proper channel for—" "Yes, I understand protocol," the human interrupted. "But my question is simple. Have you asked anyone else for help?" "No," Gray admitted. "The Vex fleet consists of 15 capital ships and supporting vessels. No single world could possibly—" "Earth will help," Jack said simply. The chamber erupted in voices. Director Click banged her staff repeatedly. "This is highly irregular. Observer Wilson, Earth has only had observer status for 5 years. You cannot make such offers in this chamber." Jack shrugged. "I just did. If the Lumari wish to formally request Earth's assistance, we will respond." An elegant reptilian delegate rose from her seat. "The human speaks nonsense. Their world is barely past primitive spaceflight. They have only 3 colony worlds while the Vex control 27 systems." "Ambassador Sith speaks truth," added another delegate. "Humans come from a death world with crushing gravity and extreme weather. This makes them naturally aggressive and impulsive. They do not understand galactic politics." Jack didn't seem bothered by these criticisms. He looked directly at Gray. "Ambassador, my government authorized me to offer assistance before I came to this session. We've been monitoring the situation. A Lumari trade ship visited Earth last year. We liked your people. We don't like bullies." Gray looked stunned. "But why would Earth risk conflict with the Vex? What do you want in return?" Jack's face showed, a brief expression that many in the chamber couldn't interpret, something between amusement and sadness. "We don't want anything. That's not how this works." Director Click's voice cut through the noise. Observer Wilson, I must formally warn you that unauthorized military action violates Council guidelines. Earth could lose its observer status and face trade restrictions. Jack nodded politely. Noted, Director. Ambassador Gray, the offer stands. Your call. Gray looked around the chamber at the faces of species who had traded with, taught, and guided the Lumari for centuries. None would meet his gaze. He turned back to the human. Earth's help would be welcomed by the Lumari people, he said formally. Jack nodded once and touched a device on his wrist. Message sent. Earth Defense Force has been activated. Ambassador, can you provide docking coordinates for our ship? It should arrive in about 10 days. Ship? Singular? Someone laughed from across the chamber. The humans think they can challenge a Vex armada with one ship? Jack didn't respond to the mockery. He walked across the chamber to Gray and extended his hand in the human greeting custom. Gray hesitantly reached out, and they clasped hands. I should warn you, Gray whispered. The Vex are notorious for their technological superiority and ruthlessness. Jack smiled slightly. Yeah, we read the reports. Don't worry too much. After exchanging contact information, Jack turned to leave. Director Click called after him. Observer Wilson, the Council formally requests information about what kind of intervention Earth is planning. Jack paused at the doorway. You'll get a full report after the mission, Director. But I can tell you we're sending the Thunderchild. The name meant nothing to most delegates, but a few who had studied human defense systems stirred uncomfortably. The vessel powered by the experimental reactor? Asked a technological specialist from the marital technocracy. That ship violates at least 7 safety guidelines established by the Council. As you frequently remind us, Jack replied with a polite nod. Good day, representatives. After the human left, the chamber filled with urgent conversations. Gray found himself surrounded by delegates, some offering sympathy, others warning him about the dangers of human involvement. They evolved on a world with twice the gravity of most habitable planets, one advisor told him. Their bones and muscles are unnaturally dense and strong. Their atmosphere is toxic by our standards, added another. They breathe reactive oxygen that would damage most species' tissues. Their history is filled with warfare, a historian noted. They united their planet less than 100 years ago after countless conflicts. Ambassador Sith pulled Gray aside. My friend, I understand your desperation, but humans are dangerous. Not malicious, perhaps, but unpredictable. Their ship designs prioritize power over safety. Their tactics defy conventional doctrine. Gray looked at them all with newfound determination. The Vex gave us 2 choices, slavery or extinction. The humans just gave us a third option. I choose that one. As Gray left the chamber, a message chimed on his communication device. It contained just 4 words from Earth Command. Help is on the way. For the first time in months, Gray felt something unexpected. Hope. Admiral Tom Stone stood at the viewport of Earth Orbital Command, watching the massive shape of the Thunderchild as it prepared for departure. At 52, Stone had seen humanity go from a single planet species to a minor galactic power. His weathered face and gray-streaked hair showed the stress of those decades. How soon can we launch? He asked without turning around. Commander Lisa Park consulted her tablet. Final preparations will be complete in 6 hours, sir. Captain Miller reports all systems green. Stone nodded. And what's the reaction from the rest of the galaxy? Exactly what you'd expect. 17 formal protests from council members, 3 warnings about diplomatic consequences, and 5 requests for technology sharing agreements, just in case we succeed. Stone finally turned from the viewport, a small smile on his face. Amazing how many friends you make when you might do something useful. The Admiral walked to the central command table where a holographic display showed the Lumari system and the Vex blockade. 15 red triangles surrounded a blue sphere. 15 Vex warships against a peaceful world with minimal defenses. This won't be easy, Stone said. The Vex have numbers and position. We have... What exactly? Commander Park smiled. We have the Thunderchild, sir, and we have Captain Miller. 2 decks below the bridge of the Thunderchild, Captain Robert Miller inspected the ship's main reactor room. At 45, Miller was considered young for such an important command, but his experience in Earth's unification conflicts had marked him as a natural leader. "Talk to me, Reed," he said to the ship's chief engineer. "Will she hold together?" Engineer Alex Reed didn't look up from the complex display showing power flows through the ship's systems. Reed was 30, thin, with quick hands that never seemed to stop moving. "Conventional wisdom says no," Reed replied. "But conventional wisdom doesn't understand this power system." The heart of the Thunderchild was its experimental reactor, a system that didn't just generate energy, but manipulated the fundamental forces that held reality together. Most galactic powers used safe, stable antimatter reactors. Humans had gone a different direction. The Council Tech inspectors called it recklessly dangerous, Miller said with a hint of pride. Reed laughed. "They also called it impossible. Then we built it anyway." Miller liked Reed. The engineer understood the ship better than anyone, even the designers back on Earth. Where others saw danger in the pulsing blue light of the core, Reed saw possibilities. "Can we push it beyond standard limits if we need to?" Miller asked quietly. Reed finally looked up, eyes serious. "The official answer is no. My answer is, probably. But there would be consequences." Miller nodded. "Let's hope it doesn't come to that." On the bridge, the command crew prepared for departure. Navigation Officer Jane West plotted the fastest course to the Lumari system. Weapons Specialist Tom Clark ran final checks on the ship's unconventional armaments. Communications Officer David Green monitored the flood of incoming messages. "Another warning from the marital technocracy," Green announced. "They say our reactor will destabilize local space and demand we power down." Miller settled into the captain's chair. "Send our standard response." Green nodded and transmitted the carefully worded message that essentially said, in diplomatic language, "Noted, proceeding anyway." Miller addressed the bridge crew. "I know you've all read the mission briefing. 15 Vex ships against our 1. They have superior numbers, they have position, they have experience." He paused, looking at each crew member in turn. "What they don't have is a good reason to fight. They're bullies picking on a peaceful species. We're going to show them that was a mistake." Miller turned to his first officer. "Commander Adams, are all departments ready?" Commander Ben Adams nodded. "All systems report ready, Captain. The crew is at battle stations." "Good. Navigation, begin departure sequence." As the massive engines of the Thunderchild powered up, the ship's AI system announced, "Warning, power levels exceeding Council safety guidelines by 35%. Miller exchanged a glance with Adams. "Note the warning in the log. Continue departure." The great ship pulled away from Earth Orbital Command, its unusual engines glowing with blue-white energy that seemed to bend the space around it. In his private quarters, Ambassador Gray watched in fascination as the human ship approached the Lumari homeworld 7 days later. He had expected to wait 10 days for Earth's help to arrive, but somehow the ship had made the journey faster than any vessel he knew could travel. The Thunderchild was unlike any ship Gray had seen before. Where most advanced species built sleek, elegant vessels with smooth lines, the human ship was angular and functional. It bristled with sensors and weapon systems that seemed almost haphazardly attached. The hull was painted dark gray with minimal markings, just the ship's name and Earth Defense Force in simple letters. Gray's communication device chimed. "Ambassador, this is Captain Miller of the EDF Thunderchild. We've arrived ahead of schedule and would like to discuss strategy." Gray hurried to the small spaceport where he kept his diplomatic shuttle. Within an hour, he was approaching the human vessel. Up close, it looked even more imposing, nearly twice the size he had expected, with visible damage to its hull plates that appeared to have been hastily repaired. When Gray's shuttle docked, he was met by a human female in a gray uniform. "Ambassador." "Gray? I'm Commander Adams, First Officer. Welcome aboard the Thunderchild." Gray followed Adams through corridors filled with busy crew members. Unlike the automated ships of most advanced species, the human vessel seemed to require many hands to operate. Each person they passed nodded respectfully to the ambassador. "Your ship is not what I expected," Gray admitted as they walked. Adams smiled. "We get that a lot. The Thunderchild was built for function, not appearance." They arrived at a conference room where Captain Miller waited with several officers. The captain stood and extended his hand in the human greeting custom. "Ambassador, Gray, welcome aboard. We've been studying the situation. It's not good, but it's not hopeless either." Gray shook the offered hand. "Captain Miller, my people are grateful for Earth's assistance, but I must be honest. I don't understand how one ship, even your Thunderchild, can stand against 15 Vex warships." Miller gestured for Gray to sit. "Numbers aren't everything. Ambassador, may I introduce my team? Commander Adams you've met. This is Navigation Officer West, Weapons Specialist Clark, and Engineer Reed." Engineer Reed spoke up. "We've been analyzing the Vex fleet from long-range scans. Their technology is impressive but predictable. Standard antimatter power cores, conventional shield geometries." Gray was confused. "Is that important?" Reed's eyes lit up with enthusiasm. "Very. It means they'll respond to our technology in predictable ways. They've never encountered a power system like ours." Captain Miller pointed to a display showing the blockade pattern. "The Vex have set up a standard containment formation. They're not expecting resistance, which gives us an advantage." "What exactly is your plan?" Gray asked. Miller's face grew serious. "First, we attempt diplomatic contact. Offer them a chance to withdraw." Gray shook his head. "They won't listen. They refused all previous attempts." "I know," Miller said. "But we always offer peace first. It's our way. When they refuse, and they will, we'll demonstrate why that was a mistake." As if on cue, an alarm sounded. Communications Officer Green's voice came over the intercom. "Captain, we're being hailed by the Vex command ship. Their leader demands we identify ourselves and state our purpose." Miller stood. "Right on schedule. Ambassador Gray, would you join me on the bridge? It's time to introduce ourselves to the neighborhood bully." For the first time since the blockade began, Gray felt something other than despair. These humans, with their strange ship and confident manner, actually believed they could win. Looking at their determined faces, Gray began to wonder if maybe, just maybe, they were right. The bridge of the Thunderchild hummed with tense energy as Captain Miller took his command chair. Ambassador Gray stood nearby, trying not to show his nervousness. "Put the Vex commander on screen," Miller ordered. The main display flickered to life, showing a stern-faced being with dark purple skin and a crest of bony ridges where hair would be on a human. The Vex commander wore an elaborate uniform covered with medals and insignia. "I am Supreme Commander Drac of the Vex Confederation," the alien announced. "Your vessel is unauthorized in this space. Identify yourself immediately." Miller leaned forward slightly. "I'm Captain Robert Miller of the Earth Defense Force vessel Thunderchild. We're here at the request of the Lumari government to address the blockade situation." Drac's eyes narrowed. "Earth? The Deathworld colony. This matter does not concern your primitive species. Depart immediately or face destruction." Miller's expression didn't change. "Commander Drac, I'm authorized to offer you a chance to withdraw your forces peacefully. The Lumari are under Earth's protection now." A harsh sound came from Drac, something like laughter. "One ship against 15? Your species is even more foolish than reported. We have studied your vessel. It violates basic safety protocols and would not survive first contact with our weapons." Ambassador Gray stepped forward, unable to contain himself. "Commander Drac, please reconsider. We can return to negotiations." "Silence," Drac snapped. "Your time for negotiations is over. You will surrender as planned." He turned his attention back to Miller. "Human, you have 1 hour to leave this system. After that, we will consider your ship hostile and respond accordingly." The screen went dark. Gray turned to Miller with panic in his eyes. "Captain, he's not bluffing. The Vex are known for their military prowess." Miller nodded calmly. "I believe you. But first impressions are important, and I think it's time we made ours." He turned to his communications officer. Green, open a channel to all Lumari ships in the area. Channel open, sir. This is Captain Miller of the Thunderchild. Any Lumari vessels, please identify yourselves. After a moment of static, a tired voice responded. This is Scholar Blue of the Lumari Defense Force. We have 3 ships still operational, but our weapons are nearly depleted. Scholar Blue, please hold your position. We're going to demonstrate something to our Vex friends. Miller turned to his weapons specialist. Clark, target the 2 Vex scout ships on the blockade's perimeter. Precision strike, engines only. Clark's fingers danced across his console. Targets acquired, sir. Ready on your command. Miller looked at Engineer Reed. Are we in position for minimal power signature? Reed nodded from the engineering station. Yes, Captain. They'll never see it coming. Miller took a deep breath. Fire. From the outside, the Thunderchild showed no visible signs of weapons charging. No energy buildup, no glowing emitters. 2 nearly invisible distortions in space shot from the ship, covering the vast distance to the Vex scout ships in seconds. On the bridge displays, they watched as the engines of both Vex vessels suddenly went dark. The ships began to drift, their running lights flickering. Scholar Blue's voice came through, filled with astonishment. What did you do to them? Targeted electromagnetic pulse, Miller explained. We disabled their engines without harming the crews. Ambassador Gray stared at the displays in disbelief. I've never seen weapons with that precision. Engineer Reed smiled slightly. That's because they're not conventional weapons. Our ship's power system allows us to create localized space-time distortions that carry an electromagnetic charge. In simple terms, Commander Adams added, seeing Gray's confusion, we can reach out and turn off their systems without destroying the ships. The communications panel lit up. Captain, Commander Drac is hailing us. He sounds upset. Put him through, Miller said. Drac's face appeared on screen, his purple skin now darker with rage. What have you done? This act of aggression will not stand. Miller's voice remained calm. It wasn't aggression, Commander. It was a demonstration. Your scout ships are disabled but intact. The crews are unharmed. This was a warning shot. You? Teresa, I do dare, Miller interrupted. Here's our position. The Lumari are now under Earth's protection. Your blockade will end, and you will withdraw from this system. In return, no further action will be taken against your fleet. Drac's expression twisted with fury. You have just signed your death warrant, human. No one challenges the Vex Confederation and survives. The transmission cut off abruptly. Gray turned to Miller. Captain, they're mobilizing their main battle fleet. You've provoked them. Miller nodded. That was the plan. Commander Adams, battle stations. Reed, prepare for full power. To defensive systems. The bridge erupted into controlled activity as crew members prepared for combat. Gray watched in amazement at how calmly these humans faced the coming storm. Captain, Reed called from the engineering station. I've been analyzing the local space. Conditions. There's something interesting happening with our power core. Miller moved to Reed's station. Explain. Reed pointed to complex readings on the display. The unique radiation from Lumari's sun is interacting with our core in unexpected ways. It's actually enhancing our power output by nearly 30%. Is it dangerous? Miller asked. Quite the opposite. It's stabilizing the reaction. We could push the system harder than we've ever attempted before. Miller studied the readings. Could we use that to our advantage? Reed's eyes lit up. Definitely. I could reconfigure the defensive systems to create larger distortion fields, maybe even enough to disrupt their entire formation at once. Do it, Miller ordered. As Reed hurried off to make the adjustments, Miller returned to the command chair. Ambassador Gray approached hesitantly. Captain Miller, I don't understand. You deliberately provoked the Vex when you're outnumbered 15-1. Why? Miller's eyes remained on the tactical display. Because sometimes the best defense is a good offense. The Vex expected us to be intimidated by their numbers. When we weren't, we disrupted their psychological advantage. But they're still stronger, Gray insisted. Numbers aren't everything, Ambassador. The Vex fight by the book. Standard tactics, standard formations. They excel at overwhelming weaker opponents who play by the same rules. And you don't play by those rules, Gray realized. Miller smiled slightly. Humans learned warfare the hard way, on our death world, as you call it. For thousands of years we fought each other. Ocean warfare, air combat, guerrilla tactics. We've tried it all. The Vex have a doctrine, we have experience. On the main screen, the Vex fleet was changing formation, moving from a blockade pattern to an attack configuration. They're coming, Commander Adams announced. Miller nodded. As expected. Navigation, bring us around to heading 045. Clark, target their command ship's communication array. Non-destructive hit only. As the crew carried out their orders, Gray watched with growing hope. These humans were unlike any species he had encountered. Where others saw the Vex's superior numbers and technology as unbeatable, the humans saw only a puzzle to be solved. The Thunderchild moved with surprising speed for such a large vessel, its unusual engines glowing brighter as it accelerated toward the approaching Vex fleet. All hands, Miller's voice rang through the ship. Prepare for combat. This is what we trained for. Remember, we're not just fighting for ourselves today. We're fighting for the Lumari people. As the distance between the ships rapidly closed, Engineer Reed returned to the bridge, slightly out of breath. Modifications complete, Captain. The power core is running at 115% capacity. Stable for now. Miller nodded. Good work, Reed. Ambassador Gray gripped a nearby railing as the reality of the situation hit him. One Earth ship was about to engage 15 Vex warships in direct combat. By all logic, they should be running, not advancing. Are we really going to attack them head-on? Gray asked, unable to hide his fear. Miller turned to the ambassador with a confident smile. Not exactly. We're going to show them something they've never seen before. The 15 Vex warships advanced in perfect formation. Their dark purple hulls absorbed light rather than reflected it, making them look like moving shadows against the stars. On the Thunderchild's main screen, the enemy vessels appeared as a wall of darkness heading straight for them. They're using the Carvis assault pattern, reported weapons specialist Clark. Standard Vex tactic against a single opponent. Captain Miller nodded. As expected. Navigation, execute Maneuver Alpha. To Ambassador Gray's surprise, the Thunderchild didn't turn to flee or move to the side. Instead, it accelerated directly toward the center of the Vex formation. Captain, what are you doing? Gray couldn't keep the panic from his voice. You're heading straight for their strongest point. Exactly, Miller replied calmly. It's the last thing they expect. On the tactical display, the distance between ships closed rapidly. The Vex fleet began to adjust their formation, spreading out to create a killing pocket that would catch the human ship in crossfire. They're charging weapons, Clark announced. Defensive systems ready, Commander Adams reported. Engineer Reed's fingers flew across his console. Power core stable at 120%, ready for phase shift on your command. Miller's eyes never left the main screen. Wait for it. Wait. He paused until the Vex ships were just seconds away from firing range. Now Reed. Reed pressed a series of commands. The lights on the bridge dimmed momentarily as power redirected throughout the ship. A strange vibration ran through the deck plates. What's happening? Gray asked, gripping a railing for support. No one answered. All eyes were fixed on the main screen as the Thunderchild entered the heart of the Vex formation. Gray expected to see energy weapons firing, explosions as the human ship was torn apart. Instead, something extraordinary happened. A blue-white sphere of energy expanded from the Thunderchild in all directions. It wasn't a weapon blast or a shield. It looked almost like a ripple in space itself. As it touched each Vex ship, their lights flickered and weapons ports closed automatically. Phase shift successful, Reed reported, excitement in his voice. Their targeting systems are offline. Estimated recovery time, 3 minutes. Miller didn't waste a second. Clark, targeted strikes on their main weapons arrays. Navigation, bring us around for maneuver beta. The Thunderchild pivoted with surprising agility for such a large vessel. Now instead of charging through the formation, It began weaving between the confused Vex ships. Precision strikes disabled weapon systems on 3 vessels before the Vex could react. "They're trying to regroup," Adams reported. 2 ships at our stern are coming back online." "I see them," Miller responded. "Reed, status of the power core?" Reed checked his readings. "Still stable at 120%, but we can't maintain this output for more than 10 more minutes." Miller nodded. "We won't need that long. Clark, defensive countermeasures on our stern. Navigation. Take us through Vector 227. The Thunderchild accelerated again, this time on a course that would take it between 2 of the largest Vex battleships. As energy weapons from the recovering Vex ships began firing, the human vessel released a cloud of tiny metallic objects from its rear sections. "What are those?" Gray asked, pointing at the small objects on the tactical display. "Old Earth naval tactic," Adams explained. "Chaff, simple metal fragments that confuse enemy targeting systems." The simple approach worked brilliantly. Vex, energy weapons fired but struck the chaff cloud instead of the Thunderchild. For all their advanced technology, the Vex had never encountered such a basic defensive tactic. Meanwhile, the Thunderchild continued its attack run, disabling weapons and engines on the 2 largest battleships as it passed between them. Now 7 of the 15 Vex ships were effectively removed from the battle. "Captain," Clark called. "Out. 3 Vex cruisers are breaking formation. They're targeting the Lumari defense vessels." Miller frowned. "Trying to eliminate civilian targets, typical bully behavior." He turned to navigation. "Intercept course, maximum speed." The Thunderchild changed direction sharply, racing to place itself between the Vex cruisers and the defenseless Lumari ships. The maneuver would expose their most vulnerable sections to the remaining Vex vessels. "Sir," Adams warned, "this will put us in crossfire from 5 different directions." "I'm aware, Commander. Reed, can we manage another phase shift?" Reed shook his head. "Not a full one, but I could create a directional burst like a shield wall on our port side." "Do it," Miller ordered. As the Thunderchild moved to protect the Lumari vessels, energy weapons from multiple Vex ships converged on their position. The directional shield Reed created absorbed most of the impacts, but the ship shuddered violently as some blasts broke through. "Damage to decks 5 through 8, reported Commander Adams. "Power fluctuations in the starboard sections." Despite the damage, the Thunderchild continued its protective maneuver, placing itself directly in harm's way. More enemy fire pounded against the human vessel's hull. "Power core destabilizing," Reed called out, his voice tense. "We're exceeding safe operational parameters." Miller gripped the arms of his command chair. "Can you stabilize it?" Reed's hands moved frantically across his console. "Not conventionally. There's only one option left, but it's never been tested outside simulation." "What option?" Miller demanded. "Emergency Protocol Omega," Reed replied. "A controlled overload of the core. It would create a massive phase shift, enough to disable every ship in the area." "Would it destroy the Vex fleet?" Miller asked. Reed shook his head. "No, just disable them completely for about 30 minutes, but there's a catch. We'd lose all power too. We'd be dead in space until auxiliary systems came back online." Another blast rocked the ship, harder this time. Warning lights flashed across multiple stations. "Hull breach on deck 3, Adams reported. "Emergency containment activated." Miller made his decision. "Do it, Reed. Initiate Protocol Omega." Reed entered a complex series of commands, then placed his palm on a scanner for final authorization. "Protocol Omega initiated. Core overload in 30 seconds. Miller opened a ship-wide channel. "All hands, brace for power loss. Emergency. Systems only." Ambassador Gray watched in fear and fascination as the lighting throughout the bridge changed to a deep blue. The deck vibrated with increasing intensity. 10 seconds to overload," Reed announced. "Brace yourselves." Gray gripped the nearest secure handhold with all 4 of his hands. Around him, the human crew secured themselves at their stations, faces tense but determined. 3, 2, 1. The world seemed to stop for a moment. Gray felt a strange sensation, as if gravity itself hesitated. Then a blinding blue-white light filled the bridge, so intense that Gray had to close his eyes. When he opened them again, the bridge was dark except for faint emergency lighting. All systems appeared to be offline. Through the viewport, Gray could see that the Vex ships were similarly dark, drifting aimlessly in space. Did it work? Gray asked into the silence. Captain Miller's voice came from the darkness. See for yourself, Ambassador. As Gray's eyes adjusted, he could make out the tactical display, now running on auxiliary power. It showed all 15 Vex warships completely powerless, floating helplessly in space. By the Ancient Ones, Gray whispered, you did it. You defeated the entire Vex fleet without destroying a single ship. Miller stood carefully in the low gravity of the powered-down vessel. That was the plan, Ambassador. Engineer Reed made it possible. Reed checked readings on a handheld device. Auxiliary power will be online in 10 minutes. Main systems in 30. The Vex ships will take longer to recover. Their power systems are more complex and less robust than ours. Gray looked at the humans with new understanding. These Deathworlders could have easily destroyed the Vex fleet. They had the power. But instead, they chose precision over destruction, protection over vengeance. Captain Miller, Scholar Blue's voice came through on the emergency communication system. The Lumari Defense Force stands ready to assist. What are your orders? Miller smiled in the dim light. Have your ships secure the disabled Vex vessels. When they wake up, I want to have a very serious conversation with Commander Drack about the future of this system. As the emergency lights brightened slightly, Gray saw something he hadn't noticed before. The human crew was exhausted. Many showed minor injuries from the battle. Their uniforms were stained with sweat. Yet not one complained or sought rest. Why? Gray asked suddenly. Why risk so much for a species you barely know? Miller's tired face showed a simple, genuine smile. Because it was the right thing to do, Ambassador. On Earth we have a saying, the only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is that good people do nothing. We chose to do something. Gray nodded slowly, understanding the humans a little better now. These creatures from a harsh world had developed not just physical strength and advanced technology, but something perhaps more valuable, a moral strength that drove them to protect others even at great risk to themselves. As auxiliary power began to return to the ship, Gray looked out at the stars and the disabled Vex fleet. For the first time in months, the future of his people seemed bright again, thanks to dangerous Deathworlders who had answered their call for help. 3 days after the battle, the Great Hall of the Galactic Council hummed with excited conversations. News of the Thunderchild's victory had spread throughout the galaxy, causing both concern and fascination. The chamber was more crowded than usual, with representatives from dozens of species who normally showed little interest in council proceedings. At the center of the chamber stood Ambassador Gray, looking more confident than he had in months. Beside him stood Captain Miller, still wearing his Earth Defense Force uniform despite suggestions that he dress more formally for the occasion. Director Click called the session to order with 3 sharp taps of her ceremonial staff. This emergency session will address the recent military action in the Lumari system. Ambassador Gray, please present your report. Gray stepped forward. Honored representatives, I am pleased to inform the Council that the blockade of Lumari Prime has ended. The Vex fleet has withdrawn from our system, and Commander Drack has signed a formal non-aggression treaty. Murmurs spread through the chamber. Director Click raised a limb for silence. And what of the human intervention? We received reports of unauthorized military action. Before Gray could answer, a new figure approached the speaking platform. Commander Drack of the Vex. His once pristine uniform now lacked several medals, suggesting a demotion. The Vex Confederation wishes to address this matter, Drack announced, his voice lacking its former arrogance. Director Click nodded. The Council recognizes Commander Drack. Drack straightened his posture. The Vex Confederation withdraws its complaint against Earth's intervention. Our internal investigation has confirmed that our blockade of Lumari Prime violated 3 interstellar treaties. The humans," he paused, glancing at Miller, "responded to legitimate distress signals with appropriate force." The chamber erupted in surprised conversations. The Vex never admitted wrongdoing. When order was restored, Director Click turned to Captain Miller. "Captain, the Council would like to understand the nature of your intervention. Reports suggest your single vessel engaged 15 Vex warships. How is this possible?" Miller stepped forward. "Director, with respect, most of that information is classified by Earth Defense Force. What I can tell you is that we employed targeted, non-lethal methods to neutralize the Vex fleet. No ships were destroyed. No lives were lost." A technological specialist from the marital technocracy rose from her seat. "But your vessel's power systems violate safety protocols. Our sensors detected energy fluctuations that could have destabilized the entire sector." Engineer Reed, who had been standing quietly behind Miller, stepped forward. "May I address this concern, Captain?" Miller nodded, and Reed approached the platform. "I'm Engineer Alex Reed of the Thunderchild. The power fluctuations you detected were contained within our ship's specialized shielding. At no point was the sector at risk." The marital representative wasn't satisfied. "But how can we verify this? The technology you're using is unlike anything in our records." Reed smiled slightly. "That's because we developed it independently. Earth was isolated for much of its technological development. We found different solutions to similar problems." Director Click tapped her staff again. "The Council's primary concern is safety. Can Earth guarantee that these unusual power systems won't pose a risk to other worlds?" Miller rejoined the conversation. "Earth is preparing a detailed report on our safety protocols. We're also willing to share certain aspects of our technology with the Council's Safety Commission." This announcement caused another stir in the chamber. Earth had never before offered to share its advanced technology. Ambassador Gray stepped forward again. "If I may add, Director, the Lumari have already begun working with Earth engineers to understand their power systems. We can confirm they are safe when properly managed." The next hour involved detailed questions about the battle and its aftermath. Captain Miller explained how the Thunderchild had disabled the Vex ships without destroying them, and how this demonstration of power had convinced Commander Drac to negotiate. Finally, Director Click addressed the chamber. "The Council will take all this information under advisement. For now, we recognize the legitimate defense of the Lumari people and withdraw our objection to Earth's intervention." As the formal session ended, representatives gathered in smaller groups. Many approached Miller and Reed with questions or offers of technological exchange. Others spoke with Gray about establishing closer ties with both Lumari and Earth. In a quiet corner of the chamber, Miller found a moment alone with Gray. "What happens now, Ambassador?" Miller asked. Gray's large eyes showed genuine warmth. "My people have already begun the recovery process. Without the Vex threat, we can rebuild. Earth's assistance has been more generous than we expected." Miller nodded. "The engineers we're leaving behind should help you understand some of our technology. Not the weapons, of course, but the power systems could transform your world." "That's not what I meant," Gray said. "Your people asked for nothing in return. No territories, no resources, no political alliance, just friendship." Miller smiled. "That's how we prefer to operate. Friendships last longer than forced alliances." Their conversation was interrupted by the approach of 3 representatives from different species. The leader, a tall being with silvery skin, addressed Miller directly. "Captain, I represent the Telos Confederation. We've observed your ship's capabilities with great interest. Would your government consider a defensive agreement with our worlds? We've had our own troubles with aggressive neighbors." Before Miller could answer, similar offers came from the other representatives. Word was spreading fast. Earth might be small and new to the galactic community, but it was becoming known as a powerful friend to have. Miller handled the requests diplomatically. "I'll forward all proposals to Earth Command, but I should clarify, we don't provide military services. For payment, we respond to legitimate needs case by case." After the representatives left, Gray looked at Miller with curiosity. You could have secured valuable alliances just now. Why hesitate? Miller's expression grew serious. Because that's not who we are, Ambassador. The moment we start deploying our ships for political gain, we become just another power player. Earth has a different vision for its role in the galaxy. Across the chamber, Engineer Reed was deep in conversation with Lumari scientists. He was explaining, with enthusiastic hand gestures, how the Thunderchild's power core worked. The Lumari listened with fascination. Your engineer seems eager to share knowledge, Gray observed. Miller nodded. Reed believes technology should help people, not control them. He's explaining enough for your scientists to develop their own version of our power systems, something suited to Lumari needs. Gray was silent for a moment. You know, Captain, when I first met humans, I was told your species evolved on a death world, a planet so harsh that it produced naturally aggressive beings. I was warned that this made you dangerous. And now? Miller asked. Now I understand that your harsh world didn't just make you strong. It taught you compassion. You know what it means to struggle, so you help others who struggle. You've faced your own threats, so you stand against threats to others. Gray extended all four of his hands in a traditional Lumari gesture of deep respect. My people will not forget what Earth has done. As they prepared to leave the council chamber, a message arrived for Miller from Earth Command. He read it quickly, then smiled. Good news? Asked Gray. The best kind, Miller replied. The Thunderchild has new orders. We're to remain in this sector for 3 months as part of a goodwill tour. Apparently several worlds have requested visits from an Earth vessel. Including Lumari Prime, I hope, Gray said. Especially Lumari Prime, Miller confirmed. Engineer Reed will be pleased. He's been talking about studying your son's unusual radiation pattern since we arrived. As they walked toward the docking area where the Thunderchild waited, Miller noticed how differently other species now looked at him and his crew. Where once there had been suspicion or dismissal of the primitive Deathworlders, now there was curiosity and respect. The news was spreading throughout the galaxy. If you faced an impossible threat, if the odds were overwhelmingly against you, if even the Galactic Council couldn't help, there was a world of beings who would answer your call. They came from a planet harsher than most could imagine. Their ships bent the rules of what most considered possible. Their methods defied conventional doctrine. And most importantly, when a foreigner begged for help, these dangerous Deathworlders answered, not for profit or power, but because they believed it was right. For many threatened species across the galaxy, this was the most welcome news they had heard in centuries. The cold left Jack's body slowly. His fingers twitched first, then his toes. The cryopod hissed as it opened, releasing a cloud of white mist into the dim room. Jack Miller took his first breath in what felt like forever, his lungs burning as they remembered how to work. Welcome back, Captain Miller, said a calm female voice from speakers above. This is Navi. Ship systems detected a critical problem requiring human oversight. Jack's eyes adjusted to the low light. He was in the cryo-sleep chamber of the colony, Ship Pathfinder. Rows of pods stretched into the distance, each holding a sleeping human. The room was silent except for the soft hum of machines keeping everyone alive. Status report, Jack croaked, his voice rough from years of disuse. Navigation systems are badly damaged, Navi replied. Power levels at 43%. Life support stable. Ship trajectory unknown. Jack pushed himself up, muscles weak from the long sleep. The metal floor felt cold against his bare feet as he made his way to the nearest computer panel. The screen showed unfamiliar star patterns, nothing like the maps they had studied before launch. Where are we, Navi? He asked, tapping commands. Into the console. Unable to determine precise location. Star mapping suggests we are approximately 78 light-years from Earth, but not in our planned flight path. Jack felt a chill that had nothing to do with the cryosleep. The Pathfinder carried 10,000 colonists, all still sleeping in their pods. They had left Earth seeking a new home on a carefully selected planet. Now they were lost in unknown space with damaged systems. Any other crew members awake? Jack asked, already suspecting the answer. Negative. Emergency protocols awakened only the commanding officer. All other crew remain in cryosleep. Jack moved to the bridge, his legs growing, stronger with each step. The main view screen showed the blackness of space dotted with unfamiliar stars. A blue-green planet hung in the distance with twin moons orbiting it. "What's that planet, Navi?" he asked, pointing at the screen. "Unknown. Not in our database. Preliminary scans show breathable atmosphere, liquid water, and vegetation. Temperature. Range is suitable for human life." Jack studied the readouts. It wasn't their intended destination, but it looked promising. Perhaps they could. A light began blinking on the communications panel. "Navi, what's that signal?" "Detecting artificial transmission from the planet's surface. Signal pattern suggests intelligent origin." Jack felt his heart race. "Intelligent? You mean aliens?" "Affirmative. Signal contains mathematical sequences that appear deliberately created. Translation impossible with current data." Jack stared at the distant planet. In all of human history, no one had ever made contact with alien intelligence. If the signal was artificial, it meant they weren't alone out here. He moved to the captain's chair and sat down, thinking. The ship was damaged, lost in unknown space. They had limited power and no way to know if they could reach their original destination. But here was a planet that could support human life, sending signals that suggested intelligent beings. "Navi, how many of the colonists can we wake safely, with our current power levels?" "Recommend maintaining minimum crew only. Waking more than 20 colonists would strain life support systems." Jack nodded. "What about our shuttlecraft? Are they operational?" "Shuttle Bay 1 contains 3 functional shuttles. Fuel reserves at 87%. Jack made his decision. "Set course for the planet, Navi. Standard orbit. I want detailed scans of the surface, especially near the signal source." Course adjusted. Estimated arrival in planetary orbit, 17 hours. As the ship changed direction, Jack went to check on the sleeping colonists. Row after row of pods filled the massive chamber, each containing a person who had left Earth hoping for a new beginning. Teachers, doctors, engineers, farmers, all the skills needed to build a new society. They had trusted their lives to this ship, to this mission. Now their fate rested in Jack's hands alone. He stopped at pod DR 1457. Through the small window, he could see the face of Dr. Tom Reed, the colony's chief scientist. Next to him was pod number 1458, containing his wife, Dr. Emma Reed, the xenobiologist. Jack had gotten to know them during the months of training before launch. Good people, brilliant minds. They would be valuable if he needed to wake someone. But, for now, they slept on, unaware of their changed circumstances. Back on the bridge, Jack studied the approaching planet more carefully. Navi's scans revealed continents and oceans, mountain ranges and forests. It looked eerily like Earth, yet subtly different. The oceans had a deeper blue color, and strange cloud formations spiraled across the northern hemisphere. "Navi, are you detecting any large cities or structures?" Negative for large-scale construction. However, several smaller clusters of artificial structures detected near the signal source. Technology level appears mixed. Some areas show energy signatures consistent with advanced technology, while others appear primitive. Jack frowned. "That's odd. Could it be different civilizations?" "Insufficient data. Recommend closer observation." As the Pathfinder entered orbit around the planet, Jack got his first clear view of the surface. Forests covered much of the land, with strange purple and blue hues mixed among the green. Rivers cut silver paths through the landscape. Near the source of the signal, he could see a clearing with what appeared to be small settlements. "Navi, focus scans on that area," Jack said, pointing to the screen. The image zoomed in, revealing structures that looked like a cross between stone huts and modern buildings. Some appeared ancient and weathered, while others seemed newer. Most curious was a partially buried complex at the center, its design unlike anything surrounding it. "The signal originates from the central structure," Navy reported. "Design suggests different builders than the surrounding settlement. Power signature detected despite apparent age." Jack made his decision. Prepare Shuttle 1 for launch. I'm going down there. Caution advised. Captain. Unknown biological and technological factors present potential dangers. Noted, Jack said, heading to his quarters to change into a proper uniform. But those people down there might have answers we need. And the 10,000 sleepers on this ship need a home. An hour later, Jack stood in the shuttle bay, dressed, in his captain's uniform, with an environmental suit packed just in case. He carried a standard exploration kit, scanner, medical supplies, emergency rations, and a sidearm. Navy. If I don't return within 48 hours, wake Dr. Reed and give him command. Understood, Captain. Shuttle 1 ready for launch. Jack climbed into the small craft, his hands moving automatically over the controls. As the bay doors opened, he looked back at the massive colony ship. 10,000 lives, all depending on what he found on the surface. The shuttle engines fired, pushing him away from the Pathfinder and toward the unknown planet below. As he entered the atmosphere, flames licked at the shuttle's heat shields. Through the viewport, the alien landscape grew larger, more detailed. Forests stretched to the horizon, and in the distance, he could see the clearing where the signal originated. Jack took a deep breath as he guided the shuttle down. He was about to become the first human to set foot on an alien world with intelligent life. Whatever waited below would change humanity forever. The shuttle touched down in a cloud of dust, engines powering down. Jack checked his scanner one last time, confirming the air was breathable. Then he opened the hatch and stepped onto the surface of a new world, the first human footprint marking the soil of a planet far from Earth. The adventure had only just begun. Jack stepped away from the shuttle, his boots pressing into soil that no human had ever touched before. The air felt strange in his lungs, clean and fresh, but with odd scents he couldn't name. The sky above had a slight greenish tint, and the sun looked smaller than Earth's but gave off a warm, comfortable light. He checked his handheld scanner, which pointed toward a structure half buried in the side of a small hill about a mile away. The signal was coming from there. "Navi, can you hear me?" Jack spoke into his communicator. "Signal clear, Captain," replied the ship's AI. "How is the environment?" "Breathable. Gravity slightly less than Earth. No immediate threats detected." Jack began walking toward the hill. "I'm heading to the signal source now." The path took him through a forest unlike any on Earth. The trees had smooth, dark purple bark and leaves in shades of blue and green. Strange, bird-like creatures flew overhead with 6 wings that moved in perfect rhythm. Small animals that looked like a cross between rabbits and lizards scattered as he approached. Jack kept his hand near his weapon, but nothing seemed aggressive. After 30 minutes of walking, he reached the edge of the forest. Before him stretched a wide clearing, and at its center stood the half-buried structure. Up close, it was clearly artificial, made of a smooth, dark material that didn't look like stone or metal, with angular designs etched into its surface. Near the structure were smaller buildings made of wood and stone. They looked like homes, but Jack saw no sign of whoever built them. "The settlement appears abandoned," Jack said into his communicator. "No movement detected. Sensors show multiple life forms approximately half a mile west of your position," Navi reported. "They appear to be moving away." "They're avoiding me," Jack realized. Probably saw the shuttle land. He approached the main structure carefully. What looked like a doorway was visible, though no actual door remained. Jack shined his light inside, revealing a corridor that led deeper underground. "I'm entering the structure," he told Navi. "Stand by." The corridor sloped gently downward, its walls covered in symbols Jack didn't recognize. His scanner indicated the signal was coming from deeper inside. After walking about 50 yards, the corridor opened into a large chamber. Jack's light barely reached the high ceiling. The room contained what looked like control panels and large, dark screens. Everything was covered in a thin layer of dust, suggesting no one had been here for a long time. "I've found some kind of control room," Jack reported. "Technology level, appears advanced, but inactive." He approached one of the panels, examining it without touching anything. The design was strange, but somehow familiar. as if the builders had similar ideas about how technology should work, despite being alien. "I wonder if," Jack began but stopped when his hand accidentally brushed against the panel. The entire room suddenly hummed to life. Lights flickered on overhead, and the screens lit up with symbols and images. Jack stepped back, startled but fascinated. "Navi, the facility is activating. It seems to respond to human touch." "Caution advised, Captain," Navi replied, her voice slightly broken by interference. "Unknown technology may pose risks." The largest screen in the center of the room now showed what appeared to be a star map. Jack recognized some constellations. This was a map of the local region of space, including Earth's solar system. "They knew about Earth," Jack whispered. As he watched, the images changed. Now they showed beings that walked on two legs like humans, but were clearly not human. They had longer limbs, larger eyes, and skin that seemed to shimmer with a blue-green color. The images showed them building great cities, traveling in space, creating what looked like gardens on different worlds. "Navi, I'm seeing images of what I believe are the builders of this facility. Bipedal humanoid, but definitely alien." A new sound filled the room, a series of musical tones followed by what could only be speech. Jack couldn't understand the words, but the pattern was clear. This was language, not random noise. One of the panels lit up with new symbols. As Jack watched, the symbols began to change, rearranging themselves. With a shock, he realized they were turning into English letters. "Navi, the system is translating itself. It's analyzing our communication and adapting." The process took several minutes, during which more screens activated, showing more images of the aliens and their technology. Finally, words appeared on the main screen. "Communication established. Welcome, Seeded Species Variant 7. "Seeded species?" Jack read aloud. "What does that mean?" The system responded to his question. "You are designation. Human. Your world designation. Earth, you were seeded by the architects 3.4 million cycles ago." Jack felt his heart pound faster. "Who are the architects?" "We are the architects. We seeded life on 126 suitable worlds. Your species is one of 27 that achieved space travel." Jack struggled to understand. These architects claim to have seeded life on Earth, created humans? Are there any architects still alive? "Are you alive?" Jack asked. "Negative. Last architect expired 42,1051 cycles ago. This is an automated facility. Purpose: preserve knowledge. Guide seeded species when ready. What happened to the architects? War with designation. Swarm. Architects defeated. Civilization ended. Remaining knowledge stored in facilities like this one on seeded worlds." Jack sat down on what appeared to be a chair, trying to process this information. An ancient alien species had apparently created life on Earth and many other planets. They had been wiped out by something called the Swarm. And now he, a lost human from a colony ship, had stumbled upon one of their knowledge vaults. "Do you have star charts? Navigation data?" Jack asked, thinking of the Pathfinder and its 10,000 sleeping passengers. "Affirmative. Complete stellar cartography available. Access granted to qualified seeded species." As Jack was about to ask another question, an alarm sounded from his communicator. "Captain, movement detected approaching your position," Navi warned. "Multiple life forms, approximately 20, moving slowly toward the structure." Jack looked at the entrance to the chamber. "The locals are coming back. Maybe they saw the facility." "Activate. Indigenous population designation tellers, seeded species variant. 15 technological development, pre-industrial. Genetic compatibility with humans, 62%. "They're another seeded species?" Jack asked, surprised. "Do they know about the architects?" "Limited knowledge. Tellers regard architects as mythological beings. They lack genetic markers for full system." "Access." Jack heard sounds from the corridor, voices speaking in an unknown language, footsteps approaching cautiously. "Can you help me communicate with them?" Jack asked the system. Translation protocols initiated. "Caution advised. Tellers have limited understanding of advanced concepts. Jack stood and faced the entrance, unarmed, hands visible. He had come too, far to hide now. The first contact between humans and another intelligent species was about to happen, and somehow he was the one representing all of humanity. The footsteps grew louder. Shadows appeared in the corridor, and then the first of the tellers stepped into the chamber. They were shorter than Jack, with copper-colored skin and large, expressive eyes. Their bodies had 6 limbs, 2 legs, 2 arms like humans, and a smaller pair of arms at mid-torso. They wore simple clothing made from woven plant fibers, decorated with geometric patterns similar to those on the facility walls. The lead teller carried a staff topped with glowing crystals. It stopped several feet from Jack, looking at him with what seemed like a mixture of fear and curiosity. Then it spoke, its voice melodic and complex. The architect system translated. The ancestors said star travelers would return when the lights awaken. Jack took a deep breath. Everything he said now would become part of history. The first words between humans and aliens. "I come in peace," he said, using the oldest greeting he could think of. "My name is Jack Miller. I'm a human from a planet called Earth." As the translation reached the tellers, they looked at each other and then back at Jack. The leader stepped forward and spoke again. "I am Ren, voice of the tellers. The old stories say you carry the key to wake the sleeping knowledge. Is this true?" Jack looked around at the now active facility, then back at the tellers. "I think it might be, and I think we have much to learn from each other." Behind him, the main screen changed to show both humans and tellers standing together among stars. The universal translator provided the meaning of the architect text that appeared, "The seated shall inherit the stars." Jack and Ren sat across from each other in the central chamber of the architect facility. 3 days had passed since their first meeting. In that time, Jack had learned much about the tellers, while they had been eager to hear about humans and Earth. "Your ship carries 10,000 sleeping humans?" Ren asked, his large eyes wide with wonder. The architect system translated his melodic speech perfectly now. "Yes," Jack confirmed. "They were supposed to start a new colony on another planet, but our ship got damaged and lost." Ren nodded, his copper skin reflecting the blue light of the chamber. "Perhaps this is not accident. The old stories say the star travelers would come when needed most. The tellers were a nomadic people who lived in small groups, moving with the seasons. They had simple technology, tools, weapons, and basic farming, but possessed remarkable mental abilities. Their communal memory allowed them to share experiences directly with each other, preserving their history without writing." "The architects visited our ancestors many times," Ren explained, using his middle pair of arms to create a glowing image in the air between them, a memory of a memory passed down through countless generations. "They taught us about the stars, showed us the patterns of life. Then they stopped coming. Our oldest memories show their sadness in final visits." Jack had spent hours studying the architect database. According to their records, the architects were fighting a war with something they called the Swarm. They lost that war about 20,000 years ago. "The Eaters of Light," Ren nodded solemnly. "Our stories speak of them too. The ancestors fled from shadows that consumed stars." Jack stood and walked to the main console. "Navi, are you still connected?" "Yes, Captain," came the AI's voice through his communicator. "I continue to monitor your position and the ship's systems. I'm sending you stellar navigation data from the architect database. It should help plot our exact location and potential. Routes home." "Receiving data now," Navi confirmed. "Processing." Jack turned back to Ren. "The architects left more than just knowledge here. There's technology that could help both our peoples." The teller leader hesitated. "We have tried to use the ancestor machines before. They do not respond to us as they do to you." Jack had noticed this. Many systems in the facility only fully activated when he touched them, remaining partly dormant when the tellers tried to use them. "The architect system explained this to me," Jack said. "Both humans and tellers have certain genetic markers the architects engineered into us. but they split the access codes between our species. Neither of us has complete access alone. Why would the ancestors do this? Ren asked. I think they wanted to ensure cooperation, Jack replied. They seeded many worlds, created many different intelligent species. Maybe they hoped we would all work together someday. A message from Navi interrupted them. Captain, I've analyzed the navigation data. I've located our original destination, Colony World. It's approximately 70 light years from our current position. That's too far with our damaged systems, Jack said, frowning. Correct. However, the data shows several potentially habitable worlds much closer. The nearest is only 3 light years away. Jack considered this. They could potentially repair the Pathfinder enough to reach a closer world. But as he looked at Ren and thought about what they had discovered here, he wondered if they needed to leave at all. There's something else you should know, Captain, Navi added, her voice oddly urgent for an AI. Long-range sensors have detected unusual energy patterns at the edge of this solar system. The patterns match descriptions in the Architect database of swarm scout ships. Jack felt a chill run through him. Are you certain? The match is 96% probable. The Architect data suggests these are advanced scouts that precede the main swarm by several days. Ren had gone very still. The Eaters of Light have returned? Jack nodded grimly. It seems so. Navi, how much time do we have? At current approach speeds, the scout ships will reach planetary orbit in approximately 5 days. If they follow patterns described in the Architect database, the main swarm would arrive 3 to 4 days after that. Jack looked around the chamber with new urgency. This facility must have defenses. The Architects wouldn't leave their seeded worlds completely unprotected. Defenses exist, the Architect system displayed on the main screen. Orbital platforms, planetary shield, requires full genetic access to activate. Full genetic access, Jack repeated, meaning both human and Teller DNA together. Ren stood up, his 6 limbs moving in perfect coordination. We must warn my people. Many Teller groups live across the Great Plains. They must come to safety. And I need to prepare the Pathfinder, Jack added. Navy, wake Dr. Reed and the Chief Engineer. Brief them on the situation. Acknowledged, Captain. As Ren left to alert his people, Jack studied the facility's schematics displayed on the main screen. The orbital defense platforms were scattered around the planet dormant for millennia. The shield generator was built into a mountain range 100 miles north, all waiting for the right genetic combination to wake them. 2 hours later, Jack stood in the shuttle bay of the Pathfinder, greeting the newly awakened colonists. Tom Reed, the colony's chief scientist, was first to approach, still shaking off the effects of cryosleep. Jack, Navi told us what's happening, but it's hard to believe, he said, running a hand through his gray-streaked hair. I know it sounds crazy, Jack replied, but everything I've found confirms it. The Architects were real. They created life on Earth and many other worlds, and their ancient enemy is heading our way. Emma Reed joined them, her eyes bright with excitement despite the danger. As the colony's xenobiologist, the discovery of the Tellers was the opportunity of a lifetime. I need to meet them, she said. If what you say about the genetic keys is true, we'll need to understand exactly how they work. Jack nodded. That's why I woke you both. Tom, I need you to help analyze the Architect technology. Emma, you'll work with the Tellers to figure out the genetic interface. Chief Engineer Patel approached, already looking at schematics on a tablet. Captain, these defense platforms are incredible. If we can get them working, they could protect both the planet and our ship. That's the plan, Jack confirmed. We have about 5 days before the scout ships arrive, maybe 8 until the main swarm gets here. As they prepared to return to the surface, Jack looked out the viewports at the blue-green planet below. Just days ago it had been an unknown world. Now it might be humanity's last hope. On the surface, Ren had gathered the leaders of nearby Teller groups. They met with Jack and the human scientists in a large tent at the edge of the Architect facility. Despite the language barrier, Emma Reed quickly established communication through the Architect translation system. The genetic key is fascinating, she told Jack after examining both human and Teller DNA samples. The architects didn't just seed life randomly, they designed complementary systems across different species. Can we use it to activate the defenses? Jack asked. Emma nodded. I think so. When humans and tellers work in close proximity, both experience enhanced abilities. Have you noticed anything unusual when working with Ren? Jack thought about it. I've been having moments of unusual clarity, and sometimes I seem to feel what he's feeling. Exactly, Emma said excitedly. The architects built a low-level, telepathic link between compatible seeded species. It's subtle but real. I believe that's the key to fully accessing their systems. As night fell, Jack stood outside looking up at the stars. Somewhere out there, the swarm was coming. The same enemy that had destroyed the mighty architects was now heading toward this small planet, with its 10,000 sleeping humans and scattered teller tribes. Ren joined him, his copper skin silvery in the moonlight. My people speak of a time when different children of the ancestors would stand together against darkness. We thought it just a story. Sometimes stories come true, Jack replied. Tomorrow, we head to the shield generator. If Emma's right about the genetic interface, we'll need humans and tellers working together to activate it. And if we fail? Ren asked softly. Jack looked up at the stars again, thinking of all the sleeping colonists depending on him, of the tellers who had lived peacefully on this world for thousands of years, and of the ancient architects who had set this all in motion millions of years ago. The architects seeded dozens of worlds, he said finally. They lost their war, but they made sure their legacy would continue through us. We won't fail. As they spoke, a shooting star streaked across the sky, too bright, too straight to be natural. The first swarm scout had entered the atmosphere. The race against time had begun. Dawn broke over the mountains as 3 shuttles rose from the Pathfinder. Jack piloted the lead craft, with Emma Reed and 4 other awakened colonists aboard. Behind him flew shuttles carrying engineering teams and basic weapons. In the distance, thin trails of smoke marked where 2 swarm scout ships had crashed during the night. Navi status update, Jack called through the communicator. 3 swarm scouts have entered the atmosphere, the AI replied. 2 were destroyed by automated defenses. 1 has landed approximately 40 miles west of your position. That was both good and bad news. The ancient defense systems still worked at a basic level, but they hadn't stopped all the scouts. What about the main swarm fleet? Long-range sensors. Detect large energy signatures 7 days out from the planet, consistent with architect records of swarm hive ships. 7 days. Not much time to prepare. The shuttles passed over forests and plains, heading toward a mountain range where the main shield generator was located. Below, Jack could see groups of tellers traveling on foot and on large 6-legged animals that resembled horses with scales instead of hair. They landed at the base of the tallest mountain. Ren was already waiting with 30 tellers, their copper skin gleaming in the morning light. More of my people come from distant settlements, Ren said, as Jack approached. The elders remember how to reach the sacred mountain from our oldest memories. Jack nodded. Good. We'll need as many of you as possible to help activate the full defense system. According to the architect database, the mountain contained not just a shield generator, but a command center for the entire planetary defense network. It had been designed to be operated by multiple seeded species working together. The entrance was half hidden behind a waterfall, a door made of the same strange material as the first facility. It didn't open until both Jack and Ren placed their hands on the control panel. Genetic verification accepted, announced a voice in the architect language, then repeated in English and the teller tongue. Welcome, inheritors. They entered a vast chamber carved into the mountain. Unlike the smaller facility, this one showed no signs of decay. Lights activated as they walked, illuminating hallways and rooms filled with technology far beyond human understanding. It's beautiful, Emma whispered, studying displays that appeared in the air around them. The architects were masters of biointegration. Their technology responds to living tissue. Chief Engineer Patel was examining what appeared to be the main control systems. This is going to take time to understand. We have 7 days to figure out technology that's thousands of years ahead of ours. The architects wanted us to use this, Jack reminded him. They built it for their seeded species to find. As human engineers and scientists spread through the facility, tellers arrived in growing numbers. Wren organized them into groups, explaining their role as best he could. Many were frightened, having never seen technology before, but their trust in their leaders and the ancient stories of the ancestors kept them cooperative. Jack found himself drawn to a large spherical chamber at the center of the facility. Inside was a raised platform with handprints marked on its surface, some clearly designed for human hands, others for the six-fingered hands of tellers. "This is it," he said when Emma joined him. "The primary interface." Emma scanned the platform. With her equipment, the genetic markers are lighting up. This requires direct neural connection from both species. Jack called Wren to join them. "I think we need to try activating this together." Wren studied the handprints. "Our oldest memories speak of joining minds with the ancestors. Is this what they meant?" "One way to find out," Jack said, positioning his hands over the human prints. Wren did the same with the teller prints. They looked at each other, then pressed their hands down simultaneously. The effect was immediate and overwhelming. Jack felt a rush of energy through his body, and suddenly his mind was expanding. He could feel Wren's thoughts, memories flooding into him. Thousands of years of teller history, experiences passed down through generations. At the same time, Wren was receiving Jack's memories. Earth, the journey through space, the sleeping colonists. Their minds merged and extended beyond the facility, connecting to the orbital platforms, sensor arrays, and defense systems spread across the planet. When they finally broke contact, both collapsed to the floor, gasping. "Did you see it all?" Jack asked when he could speak again. Wren nodded, his eyes wide. "Your world, so many humans, machines everywhere. And I saw yours. Your people's memories going back thousands of years. The architects visiting, teaching you." Emma helped them to their feet. "What happened?" "The whole facility just lit up, like a Christmas tree." "We activated it," Jack said, "but it's not enough. We need more people, humans and tellers together, to fully power the defense grid." He explained what they had experienced. The mental connection was the key. The architects had designed the system to require the combined brain power of multiple seeded species. "The architects were geniuses," Emma said after running more scans. "The system uses quantum entanglement principles to link minds together, creating a living network more powerful than any computer." By evening, 50 humans had been awakened from the colony ship and transported to the mountain facility. They worked alongside 100 tellers, forming pairs at smaller interface stations throughout the complex. Jack stood at the main control platform with Tom Reed, watching as displays showed the defense grid coming online. Orbital weapons platforms were powering up. Sensor arrays extended their reach, tracking the approaching swarm. "It's working," Tom said, amazed. "The shield generator is at 60% and rising. Another day and we should have full coverage." But they didn't have another day. "Captain," called one of the technicians, "we're detecting high-speed objects entering the atmosphere. Dozens of them." Jack rushed to the display. "Navy, what are we seeing?" "Multiple swarm craft approaching," the AI reported. "Pattern consistent with attack formation. The main fleet has accelerated. Estimated arrival now 48 hours. They must have detected our defense preparations," Jack realized. "They're trying to take out the shield before we can get it fully operational." Wren joined him at the display. "What can we do?" Jack studied the tactical situation. The shield wasn't ready, but some of the orbital weapons were online. "We fight," he said simply. "Tom, get the shield to whatever level you can. Emma, we need more neural connections. Wake more colonists." "The Pathfinder is vulnerable," Patel pointed out. "If the swarm detects 10,000 sleeping humans," Jack nodded grimly, "they'd be a prime target. Navi, move the ship to the dark side of the larger moon. Power down all non-essential systems." "Acknowledged, Captain. Beginning maneuvers now." As the Pathfinder moved to safety, Jack and Wren returned to the main interface platform. We need to coordinate the orbital defenses manually until the automatic systems are fully online, Jack explained. Ren placed his 6-fingered hands on the designated spots. Like before? Our minds together? Yes, Jack said, positioning his own hands. But this time we'll be fighting. They pressed down together, and once again their minds merged. This time they were ready for it, directing their combined consciousness toward the orbital platforms. Through the neural link, they could see the incoming swarm ships, dark angular craft that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Jack targeted the lead ships, feeling Ren's mind working alongside his, their thoughts moving faster than would be possible alone. Beams of energy lanced out from the orbital platforms, striking the first wave of swarm craft. Several exploded while others broke formation trying to evade. But more kept coming. The swarm attacked with cold efficiency, probing for weaknesses. Several ships targeted the mountain facility directly, their weapons powerful enough to penetrate. The partial shield. The mountain shook with nearby impacts. Warning signals flashed across the displays. Shield integrity at 40%, called one of the technicians. Another direct hit and we'll lose the eastern sector. Jack and Ren pushed, harder through the neural link, redirecting defensive fire. They managed to destroy the ships targeting the facility, but others were landing across the planet. When they finally broke contact, both were exhausted. Blood trickled from Jack's nose, and Ren's copper skin had taken on a sickly gray tone. We held them off, Jack said, wiping the blood away. For now. But more come, Ren replied weakly. Many more. Tom Reed approached with new scans. The main swarm fleet has accelerated again. They'll be here in 24 hours. Jack looked around at the humans and tellers working together, their faces tired but determined. They had activated ancient technology beyond their understanding. Fought off the first attack, but the real battle hadn't even begun. Then we have 24 hours to prepare, he said. And we'll need a new strategy. The architects couldn't defeat the swarm with technology alone. We need to find a different way. As night fell, lights from swarm scout ships could be seen moving across the sky. The enemy was here, probing their defenses, searching for weaknesses. Tomorrow would bring the real test. Dawn revealed the damage from yesterday's battle. Smoking craters dotted the landscape where swarm ships had crashed. 3 of the orbital defense platforms had been destroyed. In the mountain facility, humans and tellers worked frantically to repair damaged systems. Jack stood at the main display, studying the approaching swarm fleet. The mass of ships looked like a dark cloud moving toward the planet. How many? He asked Tom Reed, who was analyzing the sensor data. Over 200, large vessels, Tom replied, his face grim. Thousands of smaller craft. The architect records weren't exaggerating. The swarm is a force designed for total consumption. Emma joined them, looking tired but determined. We've figured out something important about the swarm. They operate with a hive mind. All ships connected to central command vessels. Like insects, Jack said, thinking of bees or ants. Exactly. And they're predictable because of it. They use patterns the architects documented thousands of years ago. They haven't evolved or adapted. Their strategies. Jack saw a glimmer of hope in this. So they're powerful but not creative. They don't need to be, Tom pointed out. Their patterns worked against the architects. But we're not the architects, Jack said, an idea forming. And neither are the tellers. We're something new, something the swarm hasn't encountered before. He called for Ren, who arrived with several teller elders. Together they gathered in the command center to hear Jack's plan. The architects were a single species, Jack explained. Highly advanced, but they thought in similar ways. The swarm adapted to their patterns and overwhelmed them. He gestured to the humans and tellers around the room. But we're different species with different ways of thinking. When we connect through the neural interface, we create something unique, a hybrid consciousness the swarm has never faced. Ren nodded in understanding. 2 keys unlock what one cannot. Exactly, Jack continued. The shield and orbital weapons aren't enough on their own. But if we use our combined minds to create unpredictable attack patterns, we might confuse the swarm long enough to find their weakness. The plan came together quickly. 100 human teller pairs would connect to different parts of the defense network. Unlike the architects who had used automated systems with predictable algorithms, these pairs would make decentralized decisions, creating chaos in the swarm's carefully ordered attacks. Meanwhile, Jack had another idea. Navi, can the Pathfinder be piloted remotely? Affirmative, Captain. I can control all ship functions. Good. Bring it out of hiding. We're going to use it. Several teller elders were concerned. You would risk your sleeping people? One asked. Not the people, Jack clarified. Just the ship. The swarm wants to consume resources, right? The Pathfinder is full of metals and technology they would consider valuable. A trap, Wren said, understanding. Jack nodded. Navi will pilot the ship while keeping all cryopods safe in the central section. We'll use it to lure a portion of the swarm away from the main attack. As the swarm fleet entered the outer atmosphere, everyone took their positions. Jack and Wren stood at the primary interface, ready to coordinate the overall defense. Human teller pairs connected throughout the facility, each controlling a different weapon system or shield section. Remember, Jack told them all, don't think like machines. Be unpredictable. Use your combined instincts. The neural links activated, and Jack once again felt his mind expanding, joining with Wren's. But this time he could sense the other pairs too. A network of hybrid consciousness spreading across the defense grid. The swarm attacked in perfect formation, waves of ships following precise patterns. But instead of meeting an equally predictable defense, they encountered chaos. Weapons fired from unexpected angles. Shields strengthened in some areas while deliberately weakening in others, creating traps. Through the neural link, Jack could see the confusion spreading through the swarm. Their perfect formations began to break apart as they tried to adapt to the unpredictable defense. It's working, Tom called out from his station. They're breaking pattern. On the far side of the planet, the Pathfinder emerged from behind the moon, its engines at full power. As Jack had predicted, a large portion of the swarm broke away to pursue what appeared to be an easy target. Navi, execute maneuver Omega, Jack ordered through the link. The colony ship suddenly changed course, diving toward the planet's largest ocean. The pursuing swarm ships followed, exactly as planned. Just before impact, the Pathfinder pulled up sharply while jettisoning its empty fuel containers. The massive explosion as the fuel ignited caught dozens of swarm ships, destroying them instantly. The electromagnetic pulse disrupted the coordination between the remaining ships, causing them to crash into each other. Back at the mountain facility, Jack and Wren pushed deeper into the neural link, searching for the swarm's command structure. Through the architect's sensor network, they found it. 5 larger vessels hanging back from the main battle, directing the attack. There, Jack said through the link, highlighting the command ships for all the neural pairs to see. Everything at those 5 ships now. Every operational weapon in the defense network fired simultaneously at the command vessels. Some shots missed, some were blocked, but enough got through. One by one, the command ships exploded. The effect on the remaining swarm was immediate and dramatic. Without central direction, the ships lost all coordination. Some continued attacking randomly, others flew in circles or crashed into each other. A few retreated into space. Keep fighting, Jack ordered through the link. Target any ship still attacking. The battle continued for hours, with the human teller pairs working in perfect harmony. When it was finally over, the skies were clear of swarm ships. Those that hadn't been destroyed had fled the system. Jack and Wren disconnected from the interface, both exhausted but alive. Around them, other pairs were doing the same, many collapsing from the mental strain but smiling in victory. We did it, Jack said simply. We beat them. Wren nodded. Not as the architects would have. As something new, in the days that followed, the Pathfinder returned to orbit, damaged but intact. The cryopods had remained safe, all 10,000 colonists still sleeping peacefully, unaware of how close they had come to destruction. Jack stood with Emma and Tom on a hilltop near the architect facility, watching tellers and awakened humans working together to build shelters. What now? Emma asked. Do we continue to our original colony destination? Jack looked at the blue-green world around them, thinking of everything they had discovered. This was meant to be our home, he said. The architects planned it millions of years ago. They seeded Earth and this world, created the tellers and us, left their knowledge for us to find. Tom nodded. The orbital scans show this planet has everything we need: fertile land, abundant resources, and the tellers have offered to share it. Below, Ren was teaching a group of human children about local plants while teller youngsters watched a human engineer demonstrate a simple machine. Already, the two species were learning from each other. Navi, Jack called through his communicator. Begin waking process for all colonists. Group Alpha first, construction and agriculture. Specialists. Acknowledged, Captain. Waking process initiated. Emma smiled. So we're staying. Yes, Jack confirmed. But not just to build our own colony. We're going to build something new, a world where humans and tellers live together. He pointed to the stars becoming visible as the sun set. And then when we're ready, we'll find the other seeded worlds. The architects created 27 spacefaring species before they were destroyed. Some of them must still be out there. Ren joined them on the hilltop, his copper skin glowing in the sunset. The old stories say the children of the ancestors would one day unite the stars. They were right, Jack said. This was just the beginning. That night, as the humans began constructing their first permanent settlement, Jack returned to the architect facility alone. He placed his hand on the main console one last time. Thank you, he said to the ancient beings who had set this all in motion millions of years ago. We'll carry your legacy forward. The screen lit up with a final message in the architect language, translated for him to read. The seeded have become the seeders. The cycle continues. Jack nodded. The architects were gone, but their dream lived on through their children, humans, tellers, and all the other species waiting to be discovered among the stars. And Jack Miller, who had begun this journey as just a colony ship captain, had become something more, the first navigator of this new chapter in the story of life in the universe. As he stepped outside, he looked up at the night sky, no longer seeing just stars but future homes, future allies, future adventures. The journey had only just begun.